Okay guys, here's part two. So, you gotta clean your head surface. So you're gonna need some Scotch-Brite, which is what this is. And just kinda give your head a good dusting with some Johnson carb spray. And anywhere where it's like black, see this ring here, you're gonna have to scrub on it with your Scotch-Brite or go over it with a razor, just make sure it's good and clean. And you basically want your whole head surface to look like this. So we'll see what we can do. So you can see how everything's nice and shiny now. It's clean. Clean. So now we go ahead and take our head off. So when you're scraping the Scotch-Brite, you don't want to get it in your oil galleys. So that's the only thing we kind of want to watch out, because it can plug up your oil pump. Here's where it gets a little tricky. So this is the plate that mounts on the back of your head, just like this. You want to put it on before you put the head on. So I have it marked with the arrow up. So this one here is where this crossover pipe goes, and this hole right here is where this exhaust pipe goes, and this hole right here is where your ground wire goes. So we're going to replace the cam. You can see this has some score marks in it. The cam's going to go bad pretty soon. So this is a cam number for you. You usually use this stuff here. This is engine assembly lube. So what you do is you pull the cam off. There's the 6 12mm bolts here, and then you just put the assembly lube in your cam journals to make sure it doesn't have a dry startup once you start up the engine. So your bearing journals here, they're all marked. See, 1, 2, and that's 1, 3. So you just want to make sure you keep them in order. You want to tap on the side like with a hammer a little bit, or you can take a screwdriver and pry. And it just pops it loose. So you want to spray some lube down in here. And it's just extra thick oil, so you don't have to make a big mess. And then you're going to go right there. And we're going to squeeze some more. And some more there. And put your caps on. So the torque on this is 14 foot-pounds. I'm just going to go across like that. And when you put a new cam in, you use some additive, zinc additive, or if you run it after a while, you're going to have flat lobes, because the zinc doesn't, new oil doesn't have zinc, which cams need in order for it to break in correctly. Before you put your head down, you want to blow your head bolts out, because they're blind holes, and if you have liquid in there and you put a bolt in there, it's not going to compress against it, so your head bolts are going to come loose down the road. So you take an air hose and some carb spray, spray some carb spray down there, and blow it out there, and it goes for all your head bolt holes. So if you've had your rockers out for any long period of time, sometimes you get dirt on here, so you just want to kind of spray all this stuff with some carb clean or some brake clean and make it nice and clean, because you don't want to get this dirt stuck in your new oil filter as you're putting in. So you want to take your head bolts, put them back in your box that they came in, put them on a cardboard box, and you want to take some oil you just got laying around, and just pour it on your threads and stuff, so that they get some lubrication, especially up here towards the head of the bolt, so there's not a whole bunch of friction and Mars on your rockers, and then it causes it not to torque down properly. And that's how you want your bolts to look after you soak them with oil. So before you do any torquing, you want to make sure that this is in the right position, straight up and down with this mark here. If you don't have that, then you might have to take your head back off, and you don't want to do that. So just make sure this is a good position before you do any torquing at all. So now that you got your bolts back in there and they're threaded, they're finger tight, so you want to go work yourself from the inside out and torque. So it's 58 foot-pounds is your torque. So you want to go start here in the middle. And get it. So you just want to work as an X. You get these first two here, and then you go to the outside, and then you go to the other side here, and then here, and here, and then you go to this one, and then you go to this one, and this one, and that one. That's how you torque it. And after you're done, you want to just go through and make sure everything's torqued again. You want to make sure before you put your cam gear on that you tighten this bolt here. It's 12mm. It goes to like 12 foot-pounds. So you just grab your chain and line it up where it needs to be here. Just make sure your marks are lined up. And you turn it off. Sometimes you gotta tap it on a little bit with a hammer. That's what I had to do, and you should be able to get your tool out. So in my case, I had to tighten down this in order to suck it up here in the back, and then I had to take my bolt off in order to get my tool out of the middle that held tension on my tensioners. So then I had to pull this back off and torque it back up. But the torque for this bolt here is 58 foot-pounds. So you want to torque that down and make sure this is lined up at 1. And you can put your distributor in right now if you want to, but it's all lined up. So next, with everything, I'm going to put my ground wire on, and then I'm going to put my EGR pipe bolt through, and then I'm going to put my crossover pipe on just so I know that it's done. So you want to take your gasket just like this with the 3 holes and this in the back, and you want to put it on in the back. And this is also the gasket for a middle crossover piece, just like it is for the intake manifold. So you get your crossover pipe for your coolant fan here, and you kind of have to push your bracket back for the EGR and kind of go underneath of it, and then go together. Now that you got all 4 bolts tight, and you got the brackets on the bottom tight, and you got this ground wire tight, you can go ahead and we'll clean up our valve cover. We'll put our valve cover on, just so we don't drop anything inside the engine. So you just want to clean off your valve cover, make sure there's no dirt on it and stuff, and then you want to take off your old gasket and put that away, and put a new one on there. So let's clean it. So once it's all nice and clean, you want to go ahead and flip it over and make sure that you clean this out with carb spray so there's no oil residue or anything like that inside here. And you want to lay your new gasket down in these holes. So now that your gasket's in place where it's supposed to be, we gotta do one more thing before we put your valve cover in place. So in your new kit, you have these half moons, and they go in the front and the back. So you want to take some Permatex. You want to take some ultra grade Permatex, and then you want to spray it down here in the half moon on both the front and the back. And you want to place it in place, and then you want to put some stuff here where it mates on the valve cover in the front and the back. So before we put the valve cover on, you got to adjust your valves. And so on the intake valves, you're 8 thousandths and 12 thousandths. So what we do is you get a tool like this, and so it has a socket, and then it has a screwdriver in the middle. So we're going to make sure you get your feeler on there and move this top screw part down until you feel drag on this, and that's how you adjust it. And you just want to make sure all these are on the bottom part of your cam lobe, and if you're at the top dead center, you should be able to get half, and then move it, and then you should be able to get the other half. You just kind of want to have some drag like that, and that should be sufficient enough. Might just need to go a little bit tighter. I'll loosen it back up. Yeah, right there is perfect. And that's kind of what you want it. Just want to do the stuff coming out the front, put it on your sides. And now we're going to put our new valve cover on. So once your cover's on there, you want to take these washers. These are like rubber washers that come in your kit. Put them there. Sometimes you're going to have to push hard in order to get a thread or two for your nuts. But back here in the back, your nuts or threads are already showing, so you don't want to start those until you get these, at least one of these done. And then you can kind of tighten it down side by side. So when you put your distributor in, you kind of want to make sure that this is pointing up here a little ways, and then when you twink it in, it should go to number 1. When I took it off, I marked number 1, so it should just go right to that spot. We'll know where to go. So now what you want to do is take your intake and hang it onto your stud bolt here. And here, there's a nut on the bottom. Slide it on there, and then get your 8 bolts. Get your 8 bolts on there, and then get your EGR tube back here, and then you want to put on your EGR thing right there. We see that. You want to mount that all together. So now that we got the intake back on and it's tight, I went ahead and I got my EGR on. There's a bolt down here, and you actually have one super long bolt there for the top, and then that small one there. And with those EGR gaskets, for the top part, they usually don't give you a gasket. So if you use Permatex copper, which is pretty good stuff, you know, it usually doesn't leak. You don't have any leaks in your exhaust or anything like that afterwards. So I put that on there and just tighten it down pretty well. So after you get that EGR on, you want to go ahead and put your fuel pump on, and that's our next step. And then we put the valve cover, and we'll get our EGR tight, and we'll put some spark plugs in it, and we're almost there. So when you put your gasket in, you might have to actually push down on your manifold in order to get your new gasket in there, if you left your manifold in place like I did. So when it comes to these gaskets for your exhaust, you want to make sure that this part is up. If you don't, you're never going to get the bolt to the middle, but you get the bolt to the sides, which is not the middle, so you have to take it all back off. And you just want to make sure that when you're putting the bolts in, you're going to have to do some pushing, quite a bit of pushing, in order to get your bolts back into the hole. So now that we got the exhaust tight, we're going to put our spark plugs in. These are auto lights. They're just regular coppers. You can put iridiums in there, but it really doesn't matter for carbureted vehicles or anything like that. And these are 64s, auto light 64s. And so we're going to go put those in. So after you get your plugs in, you want to go ahead and start going after your vacuum hoses and stuff like that. Just make sure everything goes back the way it was. You saw in my first video how I dotted everything. Now everything's going back pretty smoothly. I got one thing that broke, and I'm going to show you what to do to fix that. So this one-way check valve for our vacuum advanced stuff, it kind of broke off. So you take a drill bit and just kind of drill it out really carefully, and so it's like the same size as this, which is the same size as your other vacuum hose. And you just want to stick it in there, and then you want to get yourself some JB Quick, mix that up, and you just want to apply it around the outside and let it set up for a little bit, and then everything should be good for you. So this is the end product after you put some JB Quick and you mix it up together, and it looks pretty good. So I'm just gonna let it set up for a little bit and then put it on. So after we get our heater hoses mounted back up here, back here on the back, we're going to put our exhaust shield here back on, and then we're going to get our clamp tight here, and we're going to put our cable back in place over here. And we got to do some mounting for our brackets and stuff. So you want to make sure you take this bracket and kind of slide it into here, push down all the way down to where it clips into there, and get the 12 there. You know, make your life easier. You might be able to do this before we put the EGR tube on, but I can get it with long way tighten both these bolts now. So you want to put your cable like that, feed it through here, and we'll tighten this down over here. So when you're putting your power steering pump on, you want to kind of keep this whole bracket loose. They're all 14s. Just keep it loose. There's 6 bolts, and you want to tighten these 3 14s first before you do anything, because you got this bracket back here that's all split. You gotta go through this bracket and then to your pump. So it's better to keep everything loose when you try to tighten it. So after you got your bracket all tight, you want to take your key wave, make sure it's good and down on your shaft. And you want to go ahead and take your pulley and slide it on there. So you want to place your tensioner bracket on before you go after your power steering pulley. So there's 3 14mm bolts, and that's what tightens your belt for your power steering. So you want to use like a chain tool and a 19mm socket to get your power steering nut tight. I got like a vice grip chain tool. So you want to make sure you drain the oil to get all the excess water out of there. Water in the oil sometimes when you take the head off, and also when you have a blown head gasket, there's water in the oil. So after I've changed the oil and I put 5 quarts in it, this is the oil filter, I put a full bottle or additive in there. Went and hooked the hose up and closed our petcock down here. And now I'm going to put some fluid in there. I usually use the green for little stuff like this. So we got it full, it's a gallon and a half. So make sure you get your connector next, so it'll start. So after you get your 10 shield on, which is 3 12mm bolts right here, you're going to go ahead and put this on. And this little hose here goes right there, my finger is, right there. And this big hose here goes here. And then we have a vacuum hose where I have to figure out where that goes. So that vacuum hose goes here, and then you just want to put your nut here, your bolt over here on the back side, right there. And then tighten everything down, and you're done. You want to start it up. Hey guys, so that's it. I didn't get a chance to show you it running or anything like that because my phone died. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you check all your fluids, run it just for a little bit. Check your radiator fluid, make sure your radiator fluid checks out, make sure you check your oil, make sure your oil is okay and up to level. Then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and start it and let it run for like 15 minutes at 1500 RPM so you can break in that cam with the additive that I showed you. If you don't do that, you're going to have a flat cam in about 1,000 miles or so. It's just because they don't put the additive, the zinc, in the oil like they used to back in the day, and that's why you have to have the additive. So first part 2, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Any questions, just let me know. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, just, you know, give me a thumbs down and just let me know how I can improve. So thanks for watching, and as always, check out all my stuff. It's always coming out, and I got plenty of playlists to show you your own mechanic and save you money out of your pocketbook. So thanks guys, appreciate it.